Hello and welcome to Wide Angle. Turkey has been a unique country in the Muslim world because it has a secular constitution. This is a gift to that nation by its founder, Mustafa Kemal Pasha, when he put together the remains of the Ottoman Empire into today's republic. Now, that was then. Since Mustafa Kemal Pasha, we've had a series of Kemalist leaders, more or less, interspersed with the intrusion of the army every now and again. Recently, there were elections in Turkey, and in which people did not expect Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan to do as well as he did. Now, all these are issues to be understood, and we have a panel which is conversant with Turkey. On my right, Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, he was ambassador to Turkey, and of course our Foreign Secretary, and then our famous specialist John Cherian, who has recently been researching Turkey. John, everyone expected him to do badly. Why were the expectations so negative?
Well, it was a do-or-die battle for him. His political future rested on the outcome of the local elections. And before a month before the elections were due, he started campaigning literally, day in and day out. He was on the campaign trail. Because for the last 1 year, things have not been very good for him. It all started with the Gezi Park protest last year, which initially started in Istanbul. People were protesting over the takeover of a park and which was to be replaced by a new construction of Ottoman-style buildings, and this was the brainchild of the Prime Minister. So the people went out on the streets and the protests spread all over the country. And for a week or two, Turkey was virtually paralyzed. Then he made a compromise and the Gezi Park project was withdrawn. But then a series of corruption charges hit him.
Gezi Park itself was part of what we have come to be very conversant with. Is called crony capitalism. Wasn't that it was traced to some builders and developers who were interested in that particular park?
Yes, what was revealed later on through videotapes and through telephone taps, it was clear that many of the Prime Minister's close friends, not only friends but also his son, were allegedly involved in the construction activities. And this was shown and it was seen widely by the Turkish public, and it was uploaded on YouTube and on the internet. And this led to the Turkish government banning YouTube and the social networks. First time. Many of his critics said Turkey was one of the few countries after China and North Korea to do so. So all this led to,
Despite that, we'll come back to that. Kanwal, you were in Ankara. And how far has Turkey come since those days? Were, say, events like Gezi Park were possible? I mean, was it all very clean and spick and span under, say, Prime Minister Erdogan Özal?
I don't think so. At that time, of course, Turkey hadn't progressed economically the way it has, because the face of Turkey, or at least the big cities, has changed enormously since the time I was there. I was there recently a few months ago. Even Istanbul has changed a great deal. In between, Turkey was a big recipient of foreign direct investment. Its growth rates were good. Currently, of course, they're back into some difficulty in terms of their growth rates. The current account deficit is the highest in the world, and their banks are in bad shape. There is concern that if external foreign direct investment or other money flows don't keep coming in, Turkey would be facing a major crisis. But The big difference is in the secular nature of Turkey, and you began by talking about the legacy of Kemal Atatürk, and the army, the armed forces were the mainstay of secularism. So what Erdogan has done over the years is to weaken the armed forces. He's put scores of generals in jail. So he has put people in place who are more under his control. So the secular foundations of Turkey, which were based on the armed forces, have been weakened. On the other, and along with this, Turkey's hope that it will become a member of the European Union, those have progressively become more and more unrealistic. In my view, even in those times, I didn't, let's say 15, 20 years ago, I never believed that Turkey could ever become a full member of the European Union, but nevertheless, the Istanbul and the Western Turkey elite always who do think of themselves as European, felt that this was the best guarantee for Turkish secularism and Turkish democracy. Thirdly, because of Erdogan, his personality, the backing he's been getting from Saudi Arabia and others, his regional ambitions have changed. In Ozal's time, when I was ambassador there, Turkey had a very different view of its relations with the rest of the world. For example, for the first time ever, the Turkish president went to Algeria to make peace with Algeria. He made an overture towards India in order to overcome past difficulties, etc., etc. So he had a very imaginative, visionary kind of a policy in terms of settling the difference. Even Erdogan's foreign minister had this thinking that there should be zero problem around Turkey's border. But look at the situation today. Turkey is embroiled with all countries around it, and he's destroyed the relationship with Israel. He's destroyed the relationship with Syria. So people are not talking about revival of Ottoman ambitions of Erdogan.
You said something, Kanwal. You said that even then you were certain that Turkish aspirations for Europe were unrealistic. I mean, I remember Giscard d'Estaing, as president of France, saying quite openly that the European culture is Christian culture, and we simply cannot have a Muslim country, a big Muslim country, as a member of the European Union. So it was known from the... But there is a blessing in disguise. I mean, sometimes you can distill some good out of a bad situation also. Because Turkey aspired for Europe and it sort of had to measure up to European standards in various ways, so even now, if it doesn't get into Europe, no skin off its nose, because it has improved its civic amenities. As you say, you went to Istanbul, it looks a much better city, and it is on account of the fact that they had to be streamlined to be in Europe. You know, the thing, John, the big slogan in Istanbul has been no Sharia, no army. In other words, we do not want the intervention by the army, and as Kamal was saying, that army was the guarantor of their secularism. Now this slogan itself is very interesting. Could you dilate on this?
No, during his first term, if you remember, there was this attempt by the army to stage a soft coup against him. I think basically, the fight in Turkey still remains between the so-called white Turks, 10% of the population, and the black Turks, who constitute the majority of support for Erdogan. And I think it is, this majority which still stands by Erdogan, because as Ambassador here said, under Erdogan, the standard of living has improved considerably by leaps and bounds, and people are willing to overlook the faults of Erdogan. And what is also happening in Turkey is a fight between what is been described as the secular fundamentalists, represented by the army and the white Turks, against a majority which is religious. I mean, you can't, That's a fact of life.
Yes.
Until this religious majority stays with Erdogan, he will be a factor in Turkish politics and definitely in regional politics.
I mean,
And as far as membership of European Union goes, I mean, there's no way Turkey could have been a member, because the European Union is a Christian club. It would have changed the demography of the European Union.
You know, I was in Istanbul recently, and I could see this contrast between the time when I was there from 89 to 92 and today. For example, I visited the Blue Mosque again. This time, you could not enter the Blue Mosque if the prayers were going on. There was a separate entrance for those who were going for prayers and those who were otherwise wanting to go for sightseeing. Then they ask the women to be properly covered, their heads covered. They give them scarves to cover their heads and this and that, which was never the case when I was there. So you can see this kind of Islamization which is occurring. Of course, this is far from imposing the Sharia on the country, but certainly the temper of the society has changed. Now, for example, he also passed a law that within 300 meters or something like that of a mosque, you could not serve liquor. Now, there are so many mosques in Istanbul, so if you actually strictly applied that you won't be able to serve liquor anywhere. So there are ways and ways in which they are trying to Islamize society, though, as I said, they haven't reached a stage where they will start imposing the Sharia. But it could be a downward slope, progressive slope, especially because of his links with Saudi Arabia and the enormous amounts of money that his party reputedly has been getting from the Gulf countries.
Well, I mean, in fact, look, among the first things the Justice and Welfare Party did coming in, it in fact won a vote in the House and Parliament on wearing of scarves by women. I mean, earlier the secularists said nothing doing, these are bad omens, it shows that we are going back into old days of the mullahs, which Ataturk did not want. But they fought for it. They said, look, this is a minor thing. And his own wife, Erdogan's wife, wears the scarf, so does, and therefore it's become extremely common. That these symbols are one thing, and I don't think one should be terribly alarmed by these little symbols. But if they disguise a reality of Islamization, which seemed to have surfaced during when he showed his hand on Syria, I mean, then he came out not as Justice Party, but as a member of the Akhwanul Muslimin, as Muslim Brotherhood. Now, that I think is, and we should get both your opinions on that.